Hello guys, let's continue the presentation of the RadCORE project. Well, in the last video we looked at some examples of form layouts. I just want to remind you that these are just a few examples, okay, and in the next videos, to talk about some other features, I'll come back to introduce some more models. And obviously, during the presentation of other features, such as the feature that we're going to talk about now, which is dynamic validation, we're also going to end up having access to some form templates, including CRUDs, registrations, registration models that already come with some layouts that come with RadCORE. So let's go, following the same example that we dealt with earlier. Here in inline form, we commented here in the id field that we had here in RC elements an attribute that was the so guys, what are we going to have here? What will RadCORE provide us? Well, RadCORE, as you're seeing video after video, it's not just layout improvements. RadCORE brings features that will help reduce coding. So, from what you've already noticed, a lot of these dynamic attributes that RadCORE offers, they reduce coding in the application, and that's essential for us, so we can have, depending on the number of forms that your application is going to have, you're going to get it with a lot of features that are contained in the RadCORE. You're going to get a code reduction. Code reduction also implies the reduction of the project as a whole. So let's talk about validation. Usually it is common in our forms to program code fields where we want the user to fill in something, or that what they are filling out is a certain content, or that is within a certain range in that content. So it depends on the content, whether the string is empty or not empty, something along those lines. So RadCORE, within the range of features it offers, it brought dynamic validation. So look at this situation. So we have here a validation where I have a mask. This mask is 4 digits and I want what the user types in this field to have at least 4 characters. That is, I have a mask but I don't want the user to leave it blank or put only 1 digit, 2, 3, I want it to have to fill in 4 digits, right, 4 characters, so in a conventional situation you would have to put in a conditional right, when saving the form, it's time to exit the form, something along those lines, so here on this little button here, on the Save button, we're going to have a function here from the RadCORE which is the RC forming validate. I pass it as a parameter. I can pass my current form as a parameter, or I can pass it as a parameter, here. These are examples that are commented on, but I can also pass a container as a parameter. In this case it's an example of a block, right? And within that block there can be validation fields and I can pass that as a parameter to my function. So I can do a global check of all my components within the form, or I can do a check of just a specific block to save processing time. So you've got these options. Let's see. So that's what it is that occurs is in the validation of the id field and what it is that occurs in the other field that we also presented in the previous video, such that it's the valid blank site. Okay, a detail that we're looking at. Also now is that in addition to the valid attribute we are seeing here the valid required. Okay, so this here is an attribute similar to valid, but we will see now in execution what it also offers, right, for the application. Okay, so let's open the my application. I'm going to delete right my content from what we previously left right in the previous video, and notice that right here in the corner we have a little red asterisk. This little asterisk is the result of our valid required. So the valid required, it's the flag. So I'm putting here as a parameter the button in. I want it to be in the lower portion, but inside my field. That's why it appears inside the area of my edit field and here in the bottom corner. So the value required will have some parameters: lipstick, lipstick in, top, top in, and I can still put my value required linked to a label. So instead of the asterisk appearing in my edit field, it can also appear linked to the label that is related to the addition. Beauty. So that's one of the features that we're looking at in this video. It's the Verge require presentation, right? And now let's look at the presentation of the validation as we observed. So I'm going to put here just one digit and I'm going to leave the website field blank and I'm going to click on the so look what happened. I have an initial message where it's going to give me of just one of the fields, but inside my form it's going to automatically paint it red. Around the edge of the fields that are with active validation, and will dynamically put the message just below my plus field. So, enter at least 4 characters, you informed only one. Site field, which is our site field here, can't be empty. Well, these messages were generated, as well as the validation, all dynamically, based on the validation that we passed. So, where I've gone through here, valid, blank, site, I'm saying that the blank is the validation that can't be blank, and the same here, site, is just the reference that I'm passing to valid, of the name of the field that I'm wanting to do this validation, so that the message that is rendered here in the browser be an easy-to-read message, right? In the same way, as we saw there in the ID field, he brought it here to me, he set up a standard message. So I don't have any events here in my component, okay? So everything is the task of my attribute valid in conjunction with our function. Okay, so you can see that this one is going to be the default code that you're going to use in your application. Okay, you use this code, it's going to boot, it terminates the execution of the operation, okay? Of what you have and then what you would have right here next will not be executed, so this is a very simple operation for you to use within your applications. Well, the range of options you'll have at your disposal of the valid attribute is huge, okay? So I'm going to ask here to see me the parameters, which we've already seen that F2 here shows me. So look guys, the amount of parameters I can work with my valid. So, here in Brazil we can do CPF validation, CNPJ validation, we can do IP validation, email validation, so there are a series of validations. I can validate if a certain field is visible, if a certain field is enabled. I can check within a query if a record exists or doesn't exist, right? So, there are several situations in which I will be able to work with my validation and, with that, greatly reduce the final code of my project, because normally each form within a project has many validation options. So just so the video doesn't get too long, I'm going to open up here as an additional conditional example my customer record, which is also an example of use here of hardcore and such, and I'm going to take hero inside this of this project. I have here some old and 40 OK, but I've got a series of validations here different. I'm also going to delete here my license field and I'm going to try to save. Look what's happened now. Okay, guys, so we now have a validation that it's conditional. I need a value here greater equal to a smaller one equals 9, and you notice that the validation message has a scroll in it. It has a check. Okay, so hardcore does it automatically. Okay, because the validation message, it was bigger than the space that my edit here. Oh, that my edit component can be any other, a debedit etc. It was bigger than the space it has, so in order not to break the layout, RadCORE automatically applies an animation, a mark within this validation. If we are going to open the customer register, just for us to finish here our presentation of the dynamic validation, you will see here the very simple conditional validation, valid greater than or equal to 1 less than or equal to 9, just that, and the hardcore automatically checks the content, okay? And you do the validation of your field, so you can treat the validation in different ways. Okay, guys, I can use different ways. Okay, so each validation option, such, I can put here, validation, a date greater than the 5th of the 2nd of 2022, such values such and such. Greater than 99.99, less than 500. Okay guys, the sky is the limit, right, as we say here in Brazil. Okay, so the sky is the limit, so you have many options there with several other validation options that you can get to reduce encoding, and with that, obviously, even speeding up the development and improving the maintenance of the project. I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.